I think that once people start to realize the power of SEO, that's where the switch between everyone thinking that it's like this black magic, it's so unknown and what it can produce, how it works, and just the total upside of it. But I think that once you realize the power of it and get that taste for it, you realize, oh, this is actually something I'm going to dedicate the next couple of years to for my brand or my website. And with that consistency, it definitely pays dividends down the road.
Welcome to the third season of the Simple and Smart SEO Show, the podcast dedicated to empathy-driven, brand-building SEO. I'm your host, Crystal Waddell. I leverage my obsession with user experience to help business owners just like you optimize your website with confidence. Thank you so much for being here. Let's jump into another great episode. Welcome back to the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast. I am here with another new LinkedIn friend, Schneider from Trio SEO. And today we are going to have a long but short but long conversation about SEO and blogging. And I'm so excited. So Steven, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast.
Thanks, Crystal. I'm so excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. So of course, we need to know a little bit about you. What do you do? Who started Trio SEO? How did you get into blogging? Give us all the deets.
Yeah. So I got into blogging in my second to last year of college. I was on the fast track to do finance, do the MBA thing, and kind of go into some sort of investment banking or whatever, made a ton of money. And my friend at the time showed me affiliate marketing back in the day through Amazon referrals and kind of all that sort of stuff. And it pretty much said that he had this like secret side business that no one knew about. And yeah, whatever, like you're probably making a couple bucks. And he's actually making 15, 20 grand a month doing this. And I was like, okay, let's scrap everything. Never going to get the MBA. Let's just divert all energy to this. So pretty much did that. Long story short, he and I started building websites in college, a small portfolio of sites, merged with his other business partner. And we went into pretty much doing that full time straight out of college and had a portfolio of about 40 different blogs and grew that to 7 figures. And we're producing around 300 to 400 articles per month site-wide. It was just a massive full scale operation and ran that course. A lot of fun, no hard feelings. I still golf with him weekly. We're great friends. And that kind of led into my familiarity with blogging and SEO and just learning everything about that world. And then fast forward to, I want to say it was like last 2022, 2023, right on that cusp. And I found or rediscovered LinkedIn and kind of what this new version of LinkedIn that we all know and love. And since then, I was dabbling in meeting people and networking a little bit. And I met Connor Gillivan, who's a great SEO, really well known in the space. And he and I just hit it off talking about random stuff and life, texting and whatnot. And then one day I was just, why haven't you created an SEO agency? And he and his other partner, my current partner, Nathan Hirsch, they have a couple other side businesses. And this was post they exited their big kind of company called Free Up. And long story short, I was like, why aren't you guys doing SEO? It's just such a natural fit. And they're like, we have it all mapped out and we know exactly what we want to do, but we don't have a operator or someone who can see it through and run all of the operation side of things. And I pitched myself and told him what I did previously. And was like, this is a perfect fit. I'm looking for my next opportunity. And they did have everything planned out. They showed me like a 25-page document on marketing strategy and names and services and everything like that. And I was like, this is exactly what I know how to do. It was the same exact system from my first company that I had. And so I pretty much just rebuilt that same infrastructure. We had it off the ground in 60 days. And we've been taking clients for about 6 months now. But yeah, we focus on blogging, specifically bottom funnel content to drive real targeted customers, not just top of funnel organic random traffic. And from there on out, we just try to ensure that all of the content going to sites is the best content possible for SEO.
Okay, so we have to back up to the fact that you're making $15,000 to $20,000 a month with this blogging situation, because I think a lot of times when we talk about SEO, there's so many different types of SEO, and a lot of advice I feel like that is on the internet really has to do with affiliate blogging and monetizing blogs in that way. So can you explain like how that was set up back in the day when with the 15 to 20K a month return? Can you tell us like, what did that mean to have a portfolio of 30 blogs or whatever you said?
Yeah. Pretty much the affiliate space as it's well known or a dying breed. But if you ever were to Google something that's like best XYZ products, so like best hiking jacket 2024, there'll be a list of products, roundup, compared, all that sort of stuff, whether it's on New York Times or CNN or wherever you're looking at. If you hover over those links, they typically have a affiliate tracker ID in them. And that pretty much just shows Amazon that that website produces that traffic. And then that website will get a piece of the pie, so to speak, when there's a sale. The great thing about Amazon and most of the affiliate suppliers is that they offer a cookie. So if you send someone to Amazon and they don't even buy the product that they originally intended to buy, and say they just go on a shopping spree randomly because it's Amazon, you're still going to cut for anything that they buy within that 24-hour period. So regardless if that original product is there, just because Amazon is the powerhouse that it is, you can rack up a bill for someone's groceries and not even know it. Over time, as a numbers game, the more articles you produce that have all this traffic, and then as you create a really sound SEO strategy, you just have all this traffic funneled to Amazon or whatever supplier it is, and you go from there.
Yeah, you said rack up a bill, but I think you mean as they rack up their bill, you rack up commission. Yeah. But I had heard that Amazon commissions were, I don't know, maybe back then they were higher, but I've heard over the years that they've decreased and that type of thing. And how much traffic do you have to be sending them? Like, how likely is it that you can make thousands and thousands of dollars with Amazon affiliate links now?
Yeah, it's definitely harder than it was. Amazon's gone through, I want to say 2 or 3 cuts. I wasn't involved in the first cut. I was involved in the second and third, and that really hurt. That was one of the reasons that kind of first company that I was in decided to just switch gears and pivot really suddenly. But yeah, you have to have a decent amount of traffic. I think the average rate now is like anywhere from 3 to 5%. So if you sell a $100 barbecue, it's 5% of that. So it's definitely going to be a numbers game, like I said, but you're also using the assumption that people buy more than one product, or they don't even buy the product and they buy something random. So that happens a lot too. But other suppliers outside of Amazon, there may be a 30-day cookie. So if they go back to that supplier in 30 days, that sale, so to speak, over a 30-day period is still yours. So it depends on what suppliers you use and what products you sell, the commission rates, how high the ticket price item is. But yeah, for numbers' sake, like some of our sites were in the like 6-figure organic traffic range per month. Yeah, we were definitely in the golden era of kind of what I would say for affiliate marketing and SEO.
And would you say that with the recent updates over the last year or so from Google, that a lot of affiliate sites have been hit by, say, helpful content or any of the other rollouts from Google?
Yeah, I would even advise people to get into it nowadays, unless you're coming at it from more of a social affiliate person, maybe like a YouTuber who can vouch for the products, review them personally and direct people there. But yeah, the game of strictly just writing hundreds of articles per month and putting your affiliate links in them and getting that golden pie it's long gone, I would say, unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember it wasn't even until like probably 2021 or 2022 that I had that revelation that I was being sold to every single time I went to Google, because I took an affiliate marketing course about blogging. And I really feel like I know the person who ramped this up times a million and probably impacted a lot of these updates. You know, some people say, hey, it's about the big guys more than the little guys, but I have my own conspiracy theories on that. But that was the first time I realized that, oh my gosh, when you click on that number one result, there's a reason why it's number one. And it's not just number one because it's trying to give me the best possible whatever that I'm looking for. It's because somebody knows how to use SEO and other internet tactics or whatever to show up number one and then sell me something. And I always try to tell people who are in my group, I'm like, look, there's a lot of different things on the internet that are free, but everything comes with a price. And I think I heard it said somewhere, if you are not paying for something like, say, social media or whatever, then you are the product. And so I love learning and sharing those things, because some people just gloss over it and be like, okay, whatever. But from a business perspective, it's really important to understand that, yeah, there's a lot going on business-wise behind the scenes that is not necessarily disclosed, like verbally. Maybe you could read through all the terms of service. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that was the thing that was really eye-opening to me once I learned SEO, because, you know, when I started from scratch, I was so green, and he even told me what SEO stood for. I had no idea what that was or even how it worked. And so once I started to peel back the curtain, so to speak, I realized that, oh, there's actually an SEO strategy behind every single search result and this website and why it's beating this and the content like this and maybe the niche is over here. And so I definitely take it with a grain of salt, just being tied to it.
Yeah, I have a small group called the SEO Squad where I help entrepreneur businesses get found online. And I do one-on-one calls with them. And just this week, I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Maybe it was 2 days ago. One of my clients, she was like, wait a second, you just see the light bulb go off. It's like she wanted to rank for something in Charlotte, North Carolina for photography. And it clicked to her that, oh my gosh, I can control this. Like, she had zero content on her homepage and she wanted to be known for this particular keyword. So I was trying to explain to her, listen, these are the keywords that need to show up here. So Google understands what that homepage is about, like what you actually do and what you want people to do on your page. And I love seeing that light bulb go off, because it's, wow, instead of the internet happening to us, we as business owners can actually control some of our, what do you call that? Our destiny online. So I love that.
Yeah. And I think that once people start to realize the power of SEO, that's where the switch between everyone thinking that it's like this black magic. It's so unknown what it can produce, how it works, and just the total upside of it. But I think that once you realize the power of it and get that taste for it, you realize, oh, this is actually something I'm going to dedicate the next couple of years to for my brand or my website. And with that consistency, it definitely pays dividends down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And that reminds me of a client of mine. She's in the small group, but we worked together a couple of years ago, and she came, it was like a testimony, even though it wasn't even planned that way, but it was like a testimonial because she said, this particular blog that I have, it's taken a little over a year for it to really gain momentum, but now it's ranking above one of the national brand crayons, ranking above Crayola for a particular keyword. And so that is really exciting when you be an entrepreneur, taking on a big brand and beating them in the search engine results pages.
That's a great feeling.
Yeah. I love that it makes things possible. Okay. You talked a little bit about how you got into SEO, but what would you say, like with all of these changes that have happened over the last few years, what do you think is the hardest part about SEO today?
I think the hardest part about SEO nowadays is trying to understand the strategy and why it works, because there's so much information out there that it can feel almost like information overload when trying to figure out what a good source is or where to start. And there's also so many technical terms out there and, various avenues of SEO. We have technical, off page, on page, and just those buzzwords around that. But once you dive into each of those categories and peek under the hood, there's a whole other 1,000 subjects per each of those. I think just simply knowing where to start is probably one of the most difficult parts, and also just knowing where to prioritize your time and resources.
So do you have any tips on that? Like really uncovering where the best starting place is for your business?
The School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson.
Are you looking to start your own podcast but don't know where to begin? Look no further than theschoolofpodcasting.com. Our comprehensive online courses and one-on-one coaching will teach you everything you need to know, from equipment and editing to marketing and monetization. At theschoolofpodcasting.com, you'll be creating high-quality, engaging content in no time. Say goodbye to frustration and uncertainty, and hello to the community at theschoolofpodcasting.com.
Yeah, I'd say my partner, Connor Gillivan, has a great SEO course he just released. He's one of the top SEOs on LinkedIn. People out on LinkedIn across the board are putting out tons of great information. Podcasts like yours, there's tons of resources, but I'd say steer away from anything that seems overly salesy on YouTube. If it seems too good to be true, trust your gut there, and try to lean more toward an authentic creator or someone who's been there, scaled that is what I always like to recommend. If someone's suggesting that they know SEO and doesn't have the actual evidence to say, hey, look what I've created as a result of SEO, steer away from it.
Yeah. And that's one thing I've learned too, like through talking with people in the SEO community. I've learned that there are people who work in the field of SEO that don't actually optimize website. They've never actually,
it's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, wow. And one of my friends pointed out, he's like, look, just because someone's worked for 10 years in search engine optimization type roles doesn't mean that they have 10 years of actual experience. And when you're in there and you're doing it every day, that's when you understand like the changes and like what makes the impact and all that type of stuff. Definitely, I agree with you to find somebody who's actually getting their hands dirty and can show you what they're doing and how they're implementing a particular strategy or tactic. That's really important, because otherwise you could be getting information that's from 2017 blogging, affiliate marketing, and that type of stuff, and it just doesn't work anymore.
So, yeah.
Okay, so what are your takes on AI and SEO? Do you guys use AI in your content creation there at Trio SEO?
So we use AI and look at AI as more of a tool. It's never going to be, knock on wood, a direct replacement for people. And so what I mean by that is all of our content is still human written, human edited. We're using tools like Grammarly, which obviously offers suggestions to facilitate the process, save time when doing so. We're using more advanced SEO tools to create things like outline briefs and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think people still need to take AI with a grain of salt and kind of recognize that it's in its earliest form of where it's going to be in the next 20 years. Google's even cracking down on it, like we saw in the last Google update. So if you're strictly just using ChatGPT to create an article and copy and pasting and putting it on your website, you're putting yourself at a lot of risk. We like to always say that it's more of a resource for us that we can pull these different levers, so to speak, and see how it can benefit the end result. But if you just close your eyes and start using it blindly, then you should be expected to feel the repercussions of that.
Did you have clients who pushed you to use AI once they heard about, even though we're calling it AI, they're large language models that use like predictive text to write things. But when your clients heard about it for the first time, were they thinking, oh my gosh, now you can write even more and we want to see more output and that type of thing? Did you experience that as a company?
Thankfully not. We have a pretty black and white kind of onboarding process with all of our clients. And we won't even take on clients if they are looking for things like that. More of a way to treat the system. Like we're very clear cut and what we offer, the packages we offer, how we go about it, and very transparent across the board from the first conversation we have. If someone's looking to fast track their site and do that, we're just simply not a good fit for them. And that's fine. No hard feelings. But we tell them like, hey, we have a lot of experience in doing this the correct way. And if you just trust our process, the results will speak for themselves. But if you're looking for something different, like by all means, no hard feelings.
So when we talk about optimization, like I said, one of my clients who experienced some great results like a year after with her blog that ranked above Crayola, sometimes things can rank faster. Sometimes it takes longer. But when you tie result to actual financial numbers, how do you explain to clients how search engine optimization will impact their bottom line?
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the more difficult parts, especially with taking on clients, is because we know, but you have to relay that, just that transfer of knowledge, so to speak, and how we can do that. So the first thing is we always put out a realistic timeline. We say, depending on the size of the site or their authority going into it, we can see from day one where we expect them to rank. If it's a smaller, brand new site, you're not going to rank in 90 days. It's just totally far-fetched. But if someone comes in and they have a powerhouse of a website, they've been doing SEO for maybe 5 years plus, and we can come in there and just add content, yeah, you'll probably see results in 60 to 90 days. So we just take a look at where they stand currently and what we think is realistic and just relay that. And then the other part of it is just going after the right content. So like already touched on briefly that we target bottom funnel content, which means that we go after high intent keywords that are closely related to conversion tactics and things that are actually going to move the needle for their company. We're not going after listicles or things that are purely just driving meaningless traffic because like anybody, we are business owners ourselves and we understand that for SEO to be a viable long-term win, we want results to be seen across the board and going after the right strategy and kind of making sure that the client approves that and that they have any feedback. Maybe they're saying, oh, let's actually target this over here. And that's great. But just making sure that everyone's on the same page. Communication is so key to the success within Trio. And so we just take that every step of the process.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when people are creating content plans for their website and you talked about bottom of funnel, like how can they tell the difference between a top of funnel or middle of funnel or bottom of funnel article?
Yeah, this is like where I start to nerd out on SEO. And
So
this is where you mix between the data and the psychology and how your customer or your reader is interpreting that piece of content. We always like to tell people, all clients, that you know your business and your brand better than anyone. So we can show you what we would interpret as like the best strategy for the next 90 days. But if you see something clear cut, you're like, no, actually, this is a way better opportunity. We'll trust your gut. And so when it comes to those keywords, and if you're creating a strategy yourself, you really have to put yourself into the perspective of that client or that customer or the reader and think about how are they interpreting this content and what is the original search intent from step one. If it's like a versus article, comparison article, they're probably not looking to buy. They're probably in that research phase. They're probably just looking to expose themselves to new ideas and just learn more about it. But if there's a services keyword or anything that's like XYZ services, they're probably looking to make a move on that intent. So it really comes down to switching gears, putting yourself in their shoes and seeing, how would I go about this? And then taking it one step further, Google it, like actually search for that term, see what the other results are, see what the competing articles are offering. And if they're offering call to actions and you think that there's an intent from what you would personally go and explore, probably a good chance that it's going to overlap.
yeah, and I love that term search intent because it's like the ultimate descriptor of how you should optimize your content. And I'm thinking of SGE, that search generative experience, right? That Google currently has, and then Bing's search option or whatnot. Do you think that those tools, do you think that they are taking away the top of funnel searches? And if yes, do you still want to have some sort of presence there so that they would then recommend you? Because I've noticed that at the bottom of the summaries, they have their sources linked there. And so I just wondered if that was relevant moving forward or which is what it is.
Yeah, I definitely see it being relevant in the future. I think it's still in its early adoption phase and it's not being widely recognized yet. I think it's still in this kind of like half in, half out thing. But yeah, that content is being pulled from somewhere. It's not like it's being created out of thin air. So by having that content on your site, you then expose yourself to the opportunity of being recognized. And without a doubt, like that adds your experience, your authority to your website. It adds just topical authority across the board. But yeah, I think how people are using it is going to change. I think Google is probably going to experiment with how it's shown or what information is displayed and how it's actually being catered to users. Even if we take a step back and look at the original ad experience of search results or like that first page, it looks massively different than it did 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. So I think that as things evolve, we'll start to see how users interact with them. And obviously Google's getting that data from somewhere in terms of where people are clicking or where they're hovering and if they're actually clicking at all. But I think hopefully like top of funnel wise, it helps alleviate a lot of that legwork of having to sift through articles. I always like to use the expression of like, when you're looking for a recipe online, there's nothing worse than reading 4,000 words of content around grandma's historical pastime of creating cookies in her kitchen. When I just want the recipe. I don't want anything else. Hopefully it sifts out some of that stuff.
Yeah. What bothers me most about recipe blogs more than anything is when they don't have a jump to recipe button at the top. Because really, because it's all of the ads. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I see one more pop up, like I'm out of here. Like, actually, I'm out of here now because I just saw another one. Yeah. Recipe blogs for years have been like the bane of my existence. And I use that as my excuse. But one thing that I was wondering, do you guys use any kind of tools to help you in this age of optimization to find like search intent or to really optimize the articles more than just our human knowledge? Is there anything that you would recommend to help someone with that?
Yeah, so we use SEO Wind, which is a great tool for creating outline skeletons or briefs, whatever you want to call them. And what that does is it pretty much will use AI to read and interpret the top 10 search results and then helps you curate data based on that to create your own article outline. We're also using tools like Ahrefs, which is a very widely used tool for data analysis and taking a look at the search volume metric attached to each keyword, the competing results for that, and really diving into the unique analysis aspects of it. But there's so many out there, other tools that are, there's Surfer SEO, there's Moz, and there's just like a whole suite. There's almost information overload. Again, going back to that same idea. But yeah, the big ones for us are Ahrefs and SEO Wind.
Surfer is my favorite tool of choice. But I was wondering, because Surfer used to have this thing called GrowFlow, which I love because it gave you internal linking suggestions. And I was just wondering, is there a tool out there that does that really well or better than any other where it analyzes your website and gives you internal linking opportunities?
I am still in the hunt for one as well. So if you do find one, let me know. It's definitely one of the bigger challenges. The way that we manage internal linking is that we've actually set up libraries, so to speak, of all the content per client. And then we give that access to writers so that writers can just organically mention links within. But yeah, if you don't have a system set up, it's such a massive hurdle to try and backtrack that. So let me know if you find one.
Yeah, I'm so shocked. Like to me, that is one of the lowest hanging fruits of opportunities for an SEO tool. And I'm like, why am I not smarter? Because if I was, I'd totally create that tool because to me, internal linking is one of the most overlooked opportunities, especially for really small businesses who don't have a lot of domain authority or who don't have access to content writers or anything like that. Like my big push for small business owners is look, control what you can control because there's lots of different things that you can do for SEO and to optimize your presence online. But really what we have to start with is identifying like what you can control. And if you can start there and do that really well, you might find that you're ranking and outranking larger businesses just because you do that really well. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's really, there's so many easy levers to pull. And I think like it really comes down to just making sure that your site, all the basics are covered.
Yeah. So having said that, is there anything else that you would add to that in terms of easy levers to pull for small businesses?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that your site is trusted and the experience is good. Google's, my favorite acronym is EAT. That's the EEAT, which is your experience, your expertise, your authoritativeness, and your trust. And so that's not a ranking factor by any means, but it's definitely a good content guideline that they've announced. And what that pretty much does is shows that, do you have an about page? Do you have a contact page? Do you have a privacy policy page? Is your footer organized? Can people find pages without having to dig through and click through 5 different things to find one axis of the page? I think that it really just comes down to user experience at the end of the day. And we really push for that hard and making sure that if people can navigate your website clean and clear, Google can too. So it's a win. But yeah, I think that just making sure that it's clean and also that it looks pretty. I think that people overlook that aspect. If you're site looks like it was made in 1997, it's not trustworthy. It doesn't look like it should be visited. And Google takes note of that too. All of these high level ideas in terms of what seems overly obvious, but are often overlooked at times.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Yeah, I can give two specific examples of that just from my small Shopify store, because I used to take pictures of myself and my husband, holding the different things that we make. We make giant wooden letters and numbers, and we just ventured out into the wedding space and the event space doing like marquee numbers. Super excited. We have marquee numbers that you don't have to plug in. So it's super awesome. They're battery powered and remote controlled. So the first thing was recognizing that the images and the image quality on your website, if it's not a trust signal to Google, it is to the user and for the user experience. And I noticed an enormous jump from one year to another when we started featuring professional photography of our products on the site. I never realized that people just need to see that in product result or what's possible. And having these beautiful photos really made a difference. I had people sending me messages that said, my daughter saw this photo and she wanted that. She had to have this because your models look like her or whatever. So there's just so many connections that can be made, not just with the quality of the photo, but like the people in the photo. So that was one thing I learned. And then also you mentioned user experience, because I think a lot of times people think, okay, I can do that technical stuff of optimization and do everything right with linking and all of these extra things. But if somebody comes to your website and it's difficult to navigate, or for instance, let's say they came to your website from somewhere else because they clicked on a picture, sticking with product photography, and that page that they land on after clicking on the picture is a completely different product or your homepage or anything like that, that just completely diminishes the user experience, because now they're thinking, how do I get to what I was looking for? And that's the last thing you want a user to have to do, is ask themselves questions about how to get this to work for them. Usually they're going to be gone. So I realized early on, even after optimizing, you really have to go back and then take a look at it from that user experience perspective to make sure that it is truly optimized for the user and not just for the search engines.
Oh yeah, completely. Like, imagery is one of the easier things if you have the resources to have custom images on your site. Go take photos of your team and take photos of yourself and put those on the site. Those unique images go a long way. And then even from a user experience perspective of your blog, making sure that, is there an author section off to the side? Is that linked to something like your LinkedIn, and making sure that you recognize that this is a real person behind the website and not a fake persona just to try and cheat the system. Making sure that the pop-ups are not intrusive, or maybe there's a TLDR section at the top of your blog for someone who just wants to get the gist of it and leave. So all of these things that just make sure that if you were to visit this article or this website in a vacuum, making sure that you're the visitor, what would your experience be like? And I think that more often than not, people get caught up in the fact that it's my brand and I know better than anyone. It's you're not the customer. So yourself in that perspective, 9 times out of 10 is going to make it a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And TLDR, can you explain that acronym for me just real quick?
Yeah. So it stands for too long didn't read. So what we do for every blog is a snippet at the top of the article, usually after the introduction paragraph. And it just answers the intent of the article. So going back to the recipe example, if it was a recipe article, like the recipe would be listed steps right after the introduction, so that if you just purely wanted that, you have it. And if not, you can continue reading. So if it's any sort of like how-to article, we'll list the steps alone. And then obviously below that is where you can get the more detailed information and kind of more elaborate pictures, etc.
Yeah, I think what you're saying too is, to get to the point. Because
Exactly.
with the recipe blogs, it's, get to the point. And the people who really want to nerd out on whatever is the behind the scenes, back side of the story or whatever, they'll continue down the page. But you want people to have a good experience and with you and your brand and all that stuff. So get to the point, help them find what they need, and let them make the decision about what they want to do next.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wanted to say one other thing, because I feel like small businesses right now are so well positioned to leverage optimization strategies, because so many large businesses and large publishers they've been put in the position of having to monetize their site in new ways that they haven't experienced over the last few decades even. Because of that, I feel like the user experience on a lot of those sites has went downhill so much, and they can't really do anything about it because they're having to generate revenue in new ways. And so businesses that are smaller can now compete because we can pivot quickly. We can make changes on our site that give the user a great experience or really enhance our product offerings or those type of things. So I just think this is a huge opportunity and a huge window for small businesses to really take advantage of optimizing their sites for the user, especially product sites, because that's where your revenue is coming from. It's not coming from advertisers and questionable advertising. Like, we really can control the narrative of what's happening on our web pages.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head there. I think that so often than not, especially with product sites, people want to almost feel like they're using that product before it's in their hands. And so the more pictures you can show or videos or testimonials or anything that really just alleviates all of that legwork from the get-go. And that's what we mean by matching bottom funnel to search intent, like making sure that all of the hard work is done. So that by the time they get to that page, all they have to do is say, yep, this is for me, and then move forward with that conversion. And so I think that just the better experience you can create for the end user, the better off you're going to be across the board.
Absolutely. So I think there's probably just one last question that I wanted to pick apart and throw your way, but it was in regards to topical authority. If I could give you a specific example, just riff off the top of your head, say you have a business that is, let's say, an event photographer, and they're trying to create topical authority for their website. What does that mean for them as a small business?
Yeah. So topical authority, my favorite definition for it, or the best analogy, is that always picture like an iceberg. So the top of the iceberg that you can usually see is like what you picture as your homepage, your about page, all of the bare bones stuff. But as you build out content on your site, specifically blog content, you develop this kind of below the surface iceberg, and you have this just core understanding of your niche or your industry. It's over time, the more content you have, the more articles or keywords, Google recognizes that and starts to recognize that, hey, you're an expert in this space you're talking about. And so then you start to gain that trust to secure those rankings. And it's going back to the event space example. It could be like, what are the best times of year to have an event? What are the worst times? What are the best practices to avoid? The challenges of hosting events could be best local caterers, or what is like the photography tips and tricks. So all of the micro categories or questions or topics that might come up while you're talking to your customers, that's all going to be content that just adds to your expertise and kind of just shows visitors and Google that you actually know what you're talking about. And that when it comes to it at the end of the day, that you're a trusted source who can offer these services and perform it as intended.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I know someone in particular who's really going to benefit from that. So thank you.
Thanks for not using a harder example.
Oh, I want to know, what's a hard example?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So if somebody wants to reach out to you and to your company, can you tell us who is a good fit to reach out? Because like I said, I work with a lot of micro businesses and entrepreneurs. So what type of businesses are the best fit for Trio SEO as a client?
Yeah, so we primarily work with people who have a SaaS product or online services. We don't deal with local SEO, which is a whole different can of worms. Unfortunately, we're not a good fit if you do have a local business, but someone who's looking for a long-term partner to help grow their content and their SEO strategy. If you're also looking for someone who potentially has a writer on hand, we offer outline packages. So we'll do the strategy and create the briefs, and then we can pass that baton over to you and you can see it through to the finish. But someone who just like is excited about SEO and knows that it's going to be a long kind of journey with us, not someone who's looking to experiment with it and probably only do it for 30 or 60 days, but also just someone who is able to connect with people online and drive that authority through their blog. And technicalities are always going to be one-off. We can work with writers, hire people specific for niches. No niche is ever too complex unless it is, and we'll just be straight up. But we're always looking to expand our client base however we can. And we do free audits as well. We're upfront whether it's a good fit or not from the start. We're not going to take someone on just because it's a good opportunity for us. Like, we want your results to happen just as quickly as you do and as well as they do. If we don't see it's a good fit from the start, we'll just be honest and let you know. So you can always go to trioseo.com/grow and get a free audit, and we'll see if it's a good fit.
Awesome. Okay. And so then I totally lied because I have at least one more question for you. But so what is like the most important thing that you think a business can do to optimize their internet presence? If you had to say, this is the number one thing that you can or should do, what is that piece of advice you would give?
Yeah. So there's two parts on that. So if it's a local business, I would say having all of your local kind of checks off. So like what I mean by that is like, your Google My Business, your Bing Business Review, all of the things that kind of show locally that you are a real business, and adding those links back to your website. Also getting a few local directories never hurts, maybe connecting with your local chamber, setting up all those kind of low-hanging fruit things that maybe take you a full day. It's going to be a grind or pain to set up. But what that does is it shows Google like you are an active source in the community, and that kind of helps drive your local presence. And then if you're not in need of that, what I would say is just making sure that you have a really strong kind of user experience on your site and the kind of interwoven links. So like internal linking your site where it makes sense, really clean cut navigation. Does your site clunky? Does it look well? Does it operate and function as it should? And then also just start making partnerships and start getting backlinks. I know we didn't really talk about that, but just the votes of confidence across the board. So, if there's someone in your space that you can trust, reach out to them and say, hey, is there a way we can collaborate, and see if they're willing to mention your site on theirs. And then that link to your site is the whole name of the game. So as you start to get these votes of confidence from other people, that just helps Google recognize that you are a trusted source. So I think that those two alone can go a long way.
Wow, that's amazing. Definitely something tactical that we can implement today. So I appreciate that. And then this really is the final question. Do you think that SEO is going to remain a factor for internet searches and connecting people with businesses into the future? It's 2024. Is SEO going anywhere?
I don't think so. I think that if anything, it will definitely change, but I think just like all tech, it's bound to change over time. Google has an incentive to deliver quality content to people, and how that's being shown is definitely going to have different guidelines than it does today. We even see that as it was 10 years ago. Google's guidelines are breaking down what is deemed good versus bad. And so I think that the people that pay attention to it and can install those metrics on their site are definitely going to see it through to the end. I think that SEO as it stands is also going to maybe shift away from Google, which will be interesting to see. One kind of theory that I'd like to see play out is it actually becoming more of a social SEO trend. I think things like TikTok or Instagram and how people are searching for information, we're already seeing it pretty common today that if someone needs to know how to tie a tie, they're going to go to YouTube, they're going to go to TikTok. So it might not be the same sort of SEO that we're used to now, but there's always going to be a broad range of topics where people need longer form content. You need that topical authority. You need all of those social signals built in. So if you want to succeed online with your website and your brand, SEO is definitely going to be the name of the game.
Wow. I love that. Social SEO. That is such a cool thing. I'm definitely going to explore that in the future. Thank you so much, Stephen, for coming on today. I know you mentioned where people could find the resource to see if you guys would be a good fit for them. But if they want to follow you personally, is there a good place for people to follow up with you? And I can drop it in the show notes.
Yeah, so LinkedIn's the best place for me. I post daily on LinkedIn sharing SEO tips and tricks for anyone who wants to read them. You can just Google or, LinkedIn, Stephen Schneider. You can probably throw in Trudeau SEO. If you just Google, we pop up. We do SEO, so you can find us pretty quickly in Google.
Awesome. Good SEO. Thank you so much for joining us today. So great. I can't wait to do my follow-up Friday episode on what you've talked about today. And I know it's really going to improve my site and help our group and help our listeners. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Crystal.
Welcome to the third season of the Simple and Smart SEO Show, the podcast dedicated to empathy-driven, brand-building SEO. I'm your host, Crystal Waddell. I leverage my obsession with user experience to help business owners just like you optimize your website with confidence. Thank you so much for being here. Let's jump into another great